Guys, yesterday you worked with coordinate grids for an introduction, and we learned about having to go ahead and move over first and then up. So that across the x-axis and then up the y-axis. All right, we're going to go ahead and continue with that today. So I'm going to show you a couple quick things. It's going to help you with what your work is today. So for today, we're working on the same basic principle, okay? Coordinate grids will always work the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over and then we're going to go up. Now, instead of just plotting a particular point, just one spot, what we're going to do is we're going to start doing things, then building shapes. So what I could do is I could take this spot and I could put it maybe over here at 3, 2. Okay, let me get that right. All right, so I've got A is at 3, 2. Now I could put B here over at maybe 6 over and let's go 7 up. So it's at 6, 7. And then C, maybe I can put that one right here at 6, 2. Okay, and I can even show you that that is actually the locations for those. Now, there's a whole bunch of different types of questions and things that we can do with these. So I could say, hey, if I wanted to take this point D and I wanted to take it and put it at a spot that it would make a rectangle when I connect the lines, meaning if I drew a line, if I drew a line from A to B to C, right now it's kind of building a triangle, okay, a right triangle in fact. But if I wanted to make it instead a rectangle by adding a fourth point, where would I put that point? It's a common question and something that you could build. So I could play with it, I could put it out. So if I put it here, and I connect these pieces, I connect those together, is that going to build a rectangle? Maybe a rectangle that I would draw, but not an actual real rectangle. That looks pretty dilapidated, kind of a little off kilter. So what we really want to do is we want to put this in a different spot. So taking a look, I could play with it a little and taking a look right there. Now I've got 4 spots, the top line and the bottom line, those imaginary lines right there, those look like they would be parallel. And my up and down vertical lines over here also look like they'd be parallel. So that'd be one way to go ahead and build a rectangle is by plotting it out. So a common question would have been, where would you need to put point D? So I would put that at 3, 7. That's the spot for it. I'm taking a look. Yeah, that's right. Now, another thing that's often asked, I'm going to take this D off, is they'll ask you, well, what's a point that's inside of this triangle? So triangle ABC here, that triangle, if you can imagine it, what's a point that's inside of it? So I could take this point D, and instead of trying to build a new shape, I could just try and pick one spot that would be inside of that rectangle, or inside of that triangle. So I could put it here. Would that be inside of the triangle? No, of course not. Clearly it's way off to the side. So I could take a look. So let's see, I know it's going to need to be over here somewhere, so about 4 or 5 over. And then I'm going to need to go up. So if I went here, that looks like it would miss. Maybe right here, that looks pretty much in the center of that triangle. So if I had gone over 5 and up 4, that would have built a spot inside of the triangle. All right, this is what you tend to see with a lot of these types of problems is identifying and building new parts of shapes or finding some area that would be inside of another shape. All right, so I paused it for a second. We're going to restart and try a different one. So let's say instead I wanted to build a particular shape. So I'll put this one at what? Over 2, up to at 2, 2. And then this one, let's go, let's say 6, 5. All right, so now I could draw a line in between these, okay? But let's say what I wanted to do is I wanted to build a triangle. All right, we had a triangle before. Let's say we do it again. Now, right now, anywhere I put this point, as long as it's not on top of A or B, would make a triangle, right? We could connect all of them together and it would build some sort of triangle. So let's make it a little harder. Let's see if you know your definitions. What if I didn't just want any triangle and instead I wanted a right triangle? That would be testing to see, do you remember your shapes? Now, a right triangle is a triangle that has a right angle in it. So if it has a right angle in it, that means it's one of those that has those little L corners, the 90-degree corner. All right, same thing you would find in a square or a rectangle. So if I want that, now I have to put this somewhere in particular. So I'd have to really think about, well, where would I want this? And if I was working on this, I would try different spots out and I'd really think about it. And I would notice, all right, well, I'm going to want it to come off this way. And look at, if I put it right about here at 6, 2, now when the line comes over from the A to C, that's a nice straight line, and then it goes straight up at that point. So I built that nice little right angle. So if I asked, hey, where could you put a right angle, or where could you put point C to make a right angle, 6, 2 would have been the correct answer. But there are always those people out there who see things a little differently. I could have also put it, let's try, could have put it over on this side. Now my triangle is pretty much flipped over, but look, it still would make this right angle up here. See how I'm making that right angle? So if I connected them all together, it would still make a right triangle. All right, and then we could move on with it more. We could ask about a whole bunch of different shapes. I could have, instead of building triangles this whole time, I could have slid these down a little bit and made it really tricky and asked, where would I need to put point D to make a parallelogram or to make a rhombus? And a lot of our coordinate grid questions really revolve around knowing your shapes. So that's something that you're going to have to start thinking about. If you're not familiar, you don't remember those shapes, the same shapes they've been teaching you since kindergarten and first grade and second grade, you might need to take a minute and go back and relook at some of those to make sure you understand what they are. Okay, so we'll work on this more during the course of next week and this week, but it's something to really think about, making sure you know your overall shapes, because if I want to build a parallelogram, I need to know the definition of a parallelogram, that all sides have opposite sides that are parallel to each other. So you got to know what parallel means, and you have to know all these definitions. So as you're working on building some of the shapes today, one, you're probably going to need graph paper, either the graph paper that is in your graphing notebook, or you can print out some like I told you yesterday. Hopefully you didn't wait till just now, and now you're going to force your mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle to just stop whatever they're doing and stop the whole world just to print you off a sheet of paper. Your other option, if that's not possible, okay, would be take your blue notebook paper that you already have, that already have lines going one direction, and get a ruler and just turn your notebook sideways and you draw in some of the other lines. Then all you have to do is just label them. So I would personally recommend interrupting your parents or grandparents if they're in the middle of doing something right now and you waited till the last second. So that would be an alternative, instead of you having to go admit, oh yeah, I forgot to ask for this last night. Okay, but hopefully you'll try it out. It should work well. It's not overly difficult to do. If you are building your own in your grid or your notebook papers or wherever, the biggest thing is make sure you start at 0, 0, the origin, and then make sure that you label each of these points. You want those numbers on there to make it easier to follow. Okay. All right. Well, good luck today. Make sure you drop in office hours if you need help with anything. Bye.